And in a few days, those flies are on the back of your cows. If you have 500 flies per cow, that's 3 gallons of blood a day. Now, if you were getting 3 gallons of blood sucked out of you, would you be putting weight on? Absolutely not. Folks, the more petroleum products that you put on your cow's back, the less of these you'll have. That's why we don't have dung beetles today. The permectrins, the Ivermectin and stuff, that's really put the hammer on the dung beetles. We don't use any of that. We don't worm. We've let our cows build up genetic resistance, and they can do that. Ian was going broke in Africa. He was worming his cows. He was de-ticking them. And he told his wife, Pam, he said, I've got to stop. He was doing it every month. Folks, in Africa, ticks kill cattle. They eat the ears off of them. And he told his wife, said, I'm quitting. He was dipping them. He had a big, long swimming pool. He made him swim through it. Big, long thing. He still has the pool, but he doesn't use it anymore. The first year, he lost 58 head out of 3,000 cows. The next year, he lost 17. He hasn't lost the cows since, the ticks. And that's because he let them build up resistance against the ticks. See, as long as you're treating the animal, they don't have to build up any resistance. You just took that off of them. You took a load off of the animal. So there's a lot of things out here that we feel like we have to do to our livestock or they'll die. The problem is it takes a lot of money out of our pocket. So what the dung beetles are doing is they're sucking. See, the adults suck the manure slurpee, the juice. That's what they're living on. They're getting the juice out of that manure pad. Well, plus they're rolling it up in balls and burying that in the ground. They'll bury those things down to 1 foot deep. Well, think about that. If you had a bunch of holes around your property, the diameter of a nickel, 1 foot deep, what would that do if you got a rain? Darn right, you're going to hold more water. And it's got some fertility at the bottom of that hole. And they've done studies where when that hole goes down, it just doesn't go down to one hole. It's got multiple holes going off of it. It's like a spider web under there. These are pretty cool little dudes. We found some dung beetles on one of the pasture walks we'll be on today. We found some last night in some cow pads. So you've got them here. They weren't these big ones, but they were a little bit smaller, but they were pretty good sized dung beetles. Enough to do you some good. Okay, let's go to the next slide. How often do you move the herd? It depends. And it all depends on fast growth. If things are growing fast in the spring, you can move them along pretty fast. If you get in a drought like you are right now, you want to slow them up so you don't get around too quickly. If you get around too quick, you graze off all your farm, your cattle have run out of feed. Your livestock moves must be compatible with your labor resources. Folks, I worked in town for 30 years. I quit my job at age 50, and I've been a full-time rancher since, and we started an internship program about 2 years before I quit my job. And so we take on year-long interns, and they come to work at our farm. We give them a place to live, we feed them, pay them, and when they're done with that year, we find them a job, if they're good. If they're good interns, we can find them a job. They're younger than we are, they have more energy. They like to move livestock. We've got a group right now, it's a boyfriend-girlfriend out of the Netherlands. They set a record on Judy Farms. They moved our cows 13 times the other day. In one day, 13 times. They're monitoring the pH of those cows. Folks, if you can keep the pH of your cow pee at 7, if you can keep the pH of your cow pee at 7, those cows will rebreed. And your calves will not get sick. They can't. Absolutely can't do it. And that's because that cow's immune system is performing at 100%. If you let the pH of a cow pee if it goes alkaline and gets up to 9, she physically cannot breed. She won't even cycle. So the pH on the cow, how do you get the pH at 7? They got to have pretty good selection. You need to move them, keep them in the more top part of the plant where the energy is. If a cow grazes the plant down real short, now you're getting into excess protein. And excess protein clogs up the liver and the lungs and produces ammonia. It's not good on them. It's not good. But we're going with moderate frame solely grass. So we want animals that have shorter legs, the bigger gut. They got to have a big gut capacity, fine boned. I don't want a big boned animal. You got to have the fine bones. If you don't have the fine bones, folks, you're not going to get them finished in 2 years. And that's one of the, I just was talking to some of the guys before the talk here, and that's the issue they're having, not being able to get, you don't want to winter that animal 3 years. You got to get them finished by 2 years. 24 to 30 months max. If you get the frame right, and you get the bone structure right, and the genetics where they can perform on grass without supplementation, there's a really good living to be made with grass genetic animals. And now we've got into the seed stock supply. That's just a byproduct. Because our cows stay in the herd so much longer, we have females now that we can sell, heifers, which is good. All right, you can go to the next slide. So how much forage do we leave? When you leave that daily strip or weekly strip, however often you're moving your animals, there should be enough forage left there to feed the herd another day without overgrazing the plants. Okay? Move it. That's what we're dealing with, solar-powered machines. If you get animals out in their environment and you move them, we have a closed herd, folks. We don't bring animals into our herd. And so it's not like we're bringing sale barn calves in and dumping them in with these cows. And we haven't vaccinated. We don't vaccinate anymore. Now people say, but Greg, you're going to have a wreck. You're going to get black leg or some disease in them. Well, these cows are being moved onto fresh, clean ground all the time. So they're not reinfesting themselves in manure and urine. They're not laying in it. They're gone. They're onto clean ground. They don't get sick. The only time we use our head kitchen anymore is if maybe a heifer, she's too small or whatever. We got to get the calf out and then she's cold. We don't have the predators. Folks, over in Africa, they still have predators over there. Big ones. We think we cry because we got a coyote. They've got lions over there. They have to lock their cattle up in what they call a kraal at night. A kraal is a corral. They call them kraals over there. The kraals are thorn trees, lying branches, big long thorns on them to keep the lions from jumping in there and killing their stock at night. And the herders sleep on the outside of the kraal. And all they have is a spear. And Ian calls those guys bait. And that's what they are. But there was actually an African lioness, which would be a female. She jumped out of a kraal with a 600-pound calf in her mouth. Think about that kind of predator. So, back to the predators in the United States and our herds. We have got to be the predator. What I mean by that, watch your cows. The ones that don't perform, just get rid of them. Do not give them a second chance. Our rule of thumb is in calving season, if we have to get a cow up for any reason to help her with that calf, she's gone. Because what if I'm not there? And the next year she has a problem. Or if you keep a calf out of her, or worse than that, you keep a bull calf out of her. And that bull calf breeds your whole herd. Now you've got a real issue. You've got a bunch of them out there that might give you issues. So just get rid of them. You'll never have a herd any better than what you call for. Be the predator. Take them out. Get rid of them. And don't name your cows. I'm serious. I've been on farms and people have a cow that hasn't calved for 7 years, but it's Bessie. I can't sell Bessie. Why not? Well, she's part of the family. Bessie might take you off the farm because she's not paying her way. All right, let's go to the next page. Focus on investing your money into an animal that eats grass. It gives you a baby every year while building soil on your farm. And I had an old guy tell me that when I first got started. And I wish I'd have listened to him. Because, I bought the tractor, I bought all the haying equipment. If I'd have listened to that guy, I'd have been a lot further ahead. But I thought, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Even though he was 75 years old, had cattle his whole life, I should have listened to him a little closer. Go out and listen to the people that's been in the business a long time. Write down some notes. Try and follow people that are better than you are at doing things. The pastures, they've always got grass, their cattle look good. Learn from those kind of people, okay? So the power of grass is we're building healthy soil. We have a free solar panel. So far, the government doesn't tax us on the sun. And so we can collect as much of the sun as we want, okay? But we've got to have solar collectors out there to do that. And it's also a great erosion control. If you keep your ground covered, learn to hate bare soil. What does bare soil invite to your farm? Weeds, absolutely. See, Mother Nature, well, Brian right here, Brian, hold out your arm, roll up your sleeve. Just take your sleeve, go ahead and roll up your shirt. Brian's going to hold his arm out to me, and I've got a draw knife in my hand, and I'm just going to take the top layer of Brian's skin off his arm, just the top layer. Is Brian going to be a happy camper? Nope. Mother Nature's not a happy camper either. And she will burn you. You're going to put leafy spurge in there or something you don't want. Now, what's that weed doing? It's trying to heal that spot. That's what it's doing. And over time, it may not be in your time, it may be 50 years from now, but over time, that weed will improve that soil from the root exudates it's sending out, and your more beneficial grasses will come in and start colonizing that area, and eventually they might even push out some of that. But it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. Okay? This is a problem that I had. I always started grazing too early in the springtime. And it's still being taught at some of the grazing schools in Missouri and the Midwest. And that is, unless you get out on that plant when it's pretty early in the springtime, we were taught at the Missouri grazing schools when you got 4 fingers. When you got a plant the height of 4 fingers, you better get your cows out there. Because if you don't, it's going to get away from you. It's going to get too tall, it's going to put on a seed head, and you're going to lose it. It's not going to be palatable anymore. Well, the problem with that is, when you chop it off that early in its growing cycle, you have severely pruned the roots on that plant. And then you get into June and July, and it's hot. You've got a short root system under that little plant that you knobbed off. Now you're out of grass. Folks, I did that for a lot of years, and I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, well, next year will be better. It never was any better. We like to get our plants a little bit of a head start now. We're not going to get on those plants, but we have enough winter stockpile. Winter stockpile is grass that was grown in the fall. And because of our stocking rate, we know how to stock accordingly going into winter because you know how much grass is in front of us. And folks, I can't overemphasize that enough. When you're not grazing your whole farm at the same time, you can calculate how much feed you have because the cows aren't on it. If the cows are grazing it all the time, it's hard to calculate. And it's hard to grow it. Because here's what happens. Under continuous grazing, the cows will go in and graze all the good plants. And they'll get all those good plants grazed off in about 7 to 10 days. Do you think they go after the other plants next? Nope. They go back and get another bite of that good grass, the very best. Now it's down shorter. And over the time sequence of that summer grazing, those cows keep doing that. What they're doing is they're grazing all your good plants out of your pasture. They're killing them. And then the other plants that they don't like so much, that's all that's left. Now they'll start grazing on those. But their animal performance goes down because they don't do as well on those plants, and you get more bare soil. So if you watch your plant spacing is going to get further apart each year. You're going to have more and more dead spots because you're killing out the good plants. I did it. I didn't knowingly do it, but I did it. I was pretty good at killing plants. You've got to quit lopping the baby's head off. That's what it is. It's a baby plant in the spring. And what's the sole purpose of a plant in its life? What is its sole purpose? Somebody said it. To produce seed. To survive, put something out, it'll be back next year. Well, once the plant puts out seed, what do stress plants do? If you stress that plant in the spring by lopping its head off, it's not sure it's going to survive. What's the first thing it's going to do? It's going to throw a seed head up. To let that plant get a little head start on it, it's like, by God, life's good. I don't have to put up a seed head yet. But if you lop that off, Ian compares it to war. What happens after a war when all the men come home? There's an explosion of birth. It's the same thing in plants. You stress them, by God, they're going to reproduce. It's the same thing. Immature plants, they're also very low in energy. It's not really good feed. It's very high in protein, but it's not a lot of energy. So your animal performance suffers. In Missouri, you'll see people out there, the cow tails will just be dripping wet. And that's because the grass is pretty washy. It doesn't have any energy in it. And the smart guys are actually putting out a little dry hay to kind of help dilute that high protein. Okay? That's my goal right there every year. Is to have some of this left for our spring flush. Now see, this is April 1st. The trees are just now starting to put a little green in them. This is still late, you might say early spring, late winter. But look at all these dry plants. See that dry out through there, that different color? That's all winter stockpile that was left from the previous growing season. Those plants coming up through there are about 10 inches high, the new ones. We call that boot stage. Boot stage is right when the leaf of the plant and that stem's coming up, and there's a swollen part right up inside that stem. It's not sticking out yet, the seed head, but it's pre-seed head. That's when we start grazing. We graze fast. So we're shooting the animals across our farms, trying to take that boot stage. But by doing that, the animals cannot graze solid green grass. So our cows don't get mushy anymore. They're getting a little bit of that dry matter with each bite of grass. And that's key. In the early spring, if you can save over a little of your winter grass and graze those areas with that green in there with it, it really helps on their rumen. They perform. Okay? We like to think ourselves as being regenerative, not sustainable. I think the word sustainable is used too much. In our case especially, we're taking a degraded farm, something that nobody else wanted, and we're sustaining that. That's nothing to hang your hat on. In other words, we're sustaining a degraded resource. It's not getting any better, we're just sustaining it. No, we want it to regenerate. We want to grow. We want to grow soil. We want to grow more plants. We want to grow more diversity. We want our bottom line to grow along with that. So what's cheaper than free? That animal's finished on Kentucky 31 fescue, orchard grass, clovers. There's a little Lispediza. It just grows in our pastures. It's whatever Mother Nature gave me. That's what that cow ate, or that's a steer. I like our steers to be fat enough that there's some tail fat on them. There's one thing I don't like about that steer. Can you all name it, what it is? Has a yellow tail. No, that's not it. Anybody else? Look at the back of the cow. What's it got on it? No, there's a few flies. Yeah, he's got some winter hair on there. Folks, there's no reason for animals to keep winter hair in the summertime. If the cow's not keeping the winter hair coat shed off, By the first, let's say the first month of summer, you still got that winter hair coat on her, that's a fly attractor. That cow's going to have more flies on it. And that's because cows that have long hair, flies are attracted to those cows. It's dry, it's safe for the fly to land on. If it's slick-hided and it's oily, flies don't like landing on oily animals. And that's because their feet stick. They don't like that. They want to get off that cow quick. So the oilier they are, the less flies you'll have on your cows. So you young folks have just started in a herd, look at cows, you're getting ready to buy some cows, make sure they've slicked off. If they still got the winter hair coat on this time of year, you got a cow that's not going to perform. She's going to eat your grass. She's probably going to give you a dinky little calf, or she may not even breed. That's because she's too hot. And she's actually, look at that black one in the back. Look at all the flies on that cow. It's still got most of its winter hair coat on. So yeah, it's emitting a smell. And that smell is saying, kill me. And the flies will do that. They'll come in and they'll try and take that animal out. Where is Tricia? You need to give me a warning when we've got like 15 minutes left. Because I lose track of time. What time do I need to be done for this? 2:15, okay. All right. I don't want to run over. All right, we'll go to the next talk. So we've changed our paradigms. Instead of trying to own all the land, we are now leasing it. We own 4 farms today, and we lease 12. We've got 16 farms. We sold all our equipment. I do have a tractor and brush hog. That's it. All the hay equipment's gone. Anything that was metal, we just tried to get rid of it. And I'm focusing more on the grass and adapted animals. We found out that the animals, that's where the money's at. Okay? Free workers. So we're building worm populations. And the way we're building worm populations is we're trying to make sure that we have a litter bank. In other words, all our soil has some dry stuff laying out on top of the ground. Well, why do you want a litter bank? Well, if you get up to 25 worms per square foot, there's a lot of castings. A worm lives 7 years, that's 1.2 million worms in his lifetime, okay? We're feeding the soil microbes. 1 teaspoon of healthy soil has got 1 billion microbes in it. We need more microbes. It makes things go away, like manure pads. Folks, if you see a lot of old manure pads in the field, it's because the energy cycle is not there. It's not being regenerated back into the soil because you don't have the life. The life just isn't in the soil to take the manure pad back. Okay? This is a native. These are native warm season plants. This is eastern gamma grass. We're starting to see this reappear. And if you read in the annual history books of Missouri, back in the pre-settler times, Missouri had a lot of eastern gamma grass. We came in, the settlers did, they plowed about everything they could put a mule and a plow in. They plowed it, they killed it, or they overgrazed it. Gamma grass cannot take overgrazing. If you put animals into that and don't move them off of it, they'll kill it. Because this is called the ice cream grass of grasses. It's that sweet. It's a member of the corn family. It'll get tall. I don't like to let it get tall. I like to graze it about here. Because if it gets real tall, it's kind of like making them eat a cedar tree. You know, it's woody. You've lost the palatability of the plant. But these plants, in a drought like you are in right now, I don't know if you can grow eastern gamma grass in North Dakota, can you, Trish? You can get big blue stem, you can though, right? Well, this plant here, they took a backhoe. It was growing in a bottom like this one is. They dug down 20 feet. It was in one of those extended booms that went down and extended it. There was roots 20 feet deep underneath these grass plants. Now, if you have roots under a plant, even Big Blue's been measured 8 to 9 feet. Folks, if you get in a drought situation, you've got some of these natives growing on your land, they're going to cruise through that drought pretty well. And that's because they can still get access to moisture. And another thing they're doing is they're breaking up the hard pan underneath our farms. Most of your cool season grass is the brome that I see out here. You got a lot of brome. That's got a little short root on it. The natives break through that hard pan and get access to the other minerals. Folks, there's billions and billions and billions of pounds of minerals under your all's farms. It's been there since the earth was made. Here's the problem. We don't have the plant roots to get down and get access to those minerals because of a hard pan. The natives, they can. They can break through that hard pan and get those minerals and mine them up onto their leaves. And when the cows poop that back out, well, now the other cooler season, shallower rooted plants can take advantage of those minerals. So when you get these natives, it's almost like having trees growing out in your field, except for they're palatable trees. Very palatable. I like them because they don't have any of the toxoids. We have a lot of toxins in the Kentucky 31 fescue. Fescue's taken over the Midwest. Everybody cusses it. We don't. We use it because I'm not going to go out and spray my farm with Roundup to kill it. It's there, and we're going to learn to make money with it. And the way we've done that is we get rid of the animals that can't live on it. If we have an animal that can't survive on Kentucky 31 mixed with some clover and orchard grass and maybe some eastern gamma, and that cow loses the tail switch. That's what happens. See, Kentucky 31 has a toxin in it. It's called endophyte infected fescue. And the toxin restricts the blood flow to the extremities of the cow. So it's going to you'll find it in the tips of the ears, the tail, and the feet. They fall off. Well, not all of them do. So the ones that have those effects, we just sell them, get rid of them, keep the ones that can perform, and we're making a good living. But everybody's pushing, spraying your entire farm to kill this stuff. I'm not sure that's the way to go. All right, we can go to the next one. So healthy plants, we have planned grazing, we're grazing recovered plants. We're focusing on the tips and the leaves. That's it. And what we found out by just grazing the tips of our plants, we can get another graze out of those pastures because we're not hurting it. We're just taking the tips off. The animals get really good nutrition. And folks, by leaving more plant, especially you all, where you're in a drought, the more plant you can leave out there, the more shading effect it has on the sun. The sun can't get to the ground underneath that plant as easily. Okay? If you do get a rain, let's say you would get a half-inch rain next week, and your plants are this tall, and your neighbors are like this because they didn't move his cows, you might grow some leaf structure there. Probably will. That short stuff, you're not going to graze. It's just not going to come back. Not this year. So these are fully recovered, healthy plants. They've all got seed on them. This is our second year of high-density grazing. We've learned to move a little faster, not let them get quite that mature. We try and get them more in the boot stage because we can grow more leaf. Folks, think about it this way. Every time that you graze a leaf off, think of it as a rose bush. When you prune a rose bush, what happens? It sends out appendages. It's the same thing with grass. So when you graze it, you get more of it. You get more appendages coming up, more tillering. Plants were meant to be grazed, not rested. They did an enclosure down in New Mexico. It's in the book, what's the name of that book? Gardeners of Eden. Have any of y'all read that one? It's called Gardeners of Eden by Dan Daggert. Dan Daggert was a rabid environmentalist. He was convinced that cows were absolutely destroying the earth. Because he saw it in the West. Desert, there's a cow, there's the culprit, danged old cow. And what he found out, he started going on some of these ranches where people were actually doing high density, getting some rest in front, and there was everything there. The streams were flowing, the birds were there, the wildlife, diversity. And he went out to the government station. This government station was put in the 20s. It's 40 acres, it's permanently fenced. Has been since 1920. 20s or 30s. It's way back there. Anyway, nothing can get in there, not even a rabbit. It's got the real fine net water all the way around it. And there is just solid bare ground. All the plants have died off. The only thing left there is mesquite. And that's because there's no grazing animals in there. You've got to graze it. That's what makes healthy grasslands. The grass plant and the herbivore, it's a symbiosis. The two work really well together, but we need to manage our livestock better. So we're the culprits. It's not the cow. It's not the cow that destroyed the American West. And Dan Daggett is now a big cow guy. He's like, we need more cows. I'm like, yes, we do. We got to have cows, but we got to have management. Okay? Well, it worked for 1,000 years. That's all we're doing is we're duplicating nature. You got to manage it too with nature. So one species supports 8. I think that's cool. So if we can make a home for a bobcat on our farm, we've got bobcats now. We run sheep. We've got hair sheep, but I've got guard dogs. People say, why don't you shoot that bobcat? I'm like, you couldn't pay me to shoot that bobcat. Because if I do, the whole thing collapses. Okay? Every species supports 8 additional ones. So start looking at your farm as a spider web. We've got 450 tree swallow houses up now. Folks, an adult pair of tree swallows can eat 8,000 flies a day. Those are flies that are sucking the blood out of my cattle. You just got to make a home for them. I don't know if they're in North Dakota, but Google it. See what the home range of tree swallows are. Maybe you can put some tree swallow houses out there. Take down your back rubs that are killing your soil on your farm. Maybe stop ivermectin. I don't know. I'm just throwing some ideas out there. You've got to get your soils alive. And you can't do that as long as you're putting poison in the manure pad. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to get your soils alive. Did you know a cow poops 5 times a day? And the manure pad is the most valuable tool we have from a cow. Input back into our land. But what if we're poisoning those cow pads? So now we're covering up 5 square feet a day. 5 square feet a day per cow. Because that cow pad's going to sit there for a full year, maybe 2 years, without anything chewing on it. Because if he chews on it, he's dead. He's not going to live. So we took a huge asset, which is the manure pad, and we turned it into a liability. Folks, let's keep the money on the farm. Ian has a quote. It goes like this. We own the farm. We invite city people out to our farms. We need to lock the gate and don't let them leave until we take all the money out of their pocket. What he means by that is have something to sell on. The people from town, we need to get the direction and reverse of this money. It's all going to town. It needs to come back our way. Ian's dad was on the board member of the banks back in Africa back in the day. Farmers were highly respected. They were at the top of the heap. Now it's doctors and lawyers, man. We're down here because you weren't smart enough, Ray, to be anything but a farmer. I'm serious. That's what people think. It shouldn't be that way. We're feeding those doctors and lawyers. Without us, everybody's in deep, deep doo-doo. We've got to produce food.